7 years ago, my life took a turn I could have never imagined. I was taken, not by some random criminals, but by a shadow U.S. government agency. An organization so secret, they operate completely off the books, with no oversight from anyone, not even the highest levels of government. Their funding? It comes from those massively inflated black project budgets we hear whispers about. This agency wasn't just playing politics. They were dealing with something far beyond our world. They had made contact with an extraterrestrial group they call the Caelum Guard. To maintain this relationship, they started offering something in return. People. They conscripted individuals like me through kidnapping. And how did they find me? They created an incredibly complex online puzzle game designed to identify specific minds. It was a challenge I couldn't resist, and after a full year of intense effort, I finally solved it. Little did I know, solving that puzzle was the last step before my world changed forever. It was just a normal evening, or so I thought. I was heading out to grab a pizza for the family, took a shortcut down an alley I've walked 100 times before. Suddenly, a couple of vehicles screeched to a halt beside me. One was a big van. Before I could even process what was happening, a side door slid open. 2 guys jumped out, grabbed me, and dragged me inside. I tried to fight back. I really did, but they were too strong. I felt a sharp prick in my neck, and then everything went black. The next thing I knew, sunlight was blasting through a grimy window, right into my eyes. I was in some kind of empty warehouse, tied to a chair, and I wasn't alone. There were others, all tied up and gagged just like me. My heart pounded in my chest. What was going on? Was this a kidnapping? What if no one paid? What were they going to do to us? My mind was racing, and a cold fear washed over me. What is my family doing right now, with me gone? My mother must be in tears. What about my brother, my sister, my father? As the others around me started waking up, a sense of panic began to fill the air. Amidst the chaos, I focused on my bindings, trying to work my arms loose. Suddenly, someone walked in. Dressed in all black, with a black face mask, their identity and intentions were a complete mystery. With their back to us, they busied themselves with something, ignoring the growing commotion. Finally, the noise got to them. They spun around and snapped. Shut up. We all fell silent, just staring. They turned back to their task, and I, cautiously, went back to mine. I kept wiggling my arm, putting pressure on the rope. Eventually, with a snap, my right hand was free. A moment later, I managed to loosen my left. My focus shifted to my legs. I had to get free. I worked at the ropes, trying to be subtle. I couldn't let him see what I was doing. The rest of the day was a blur of quiet, desperate struggle. But then panic set in. I could hear more voices down the hall, loud laughter echoing towards us. They were celebrating, while we were tied up, terrified. As day turned to night, hunger gnawed at us. A couple of the kidnappers walked in with plates of food. They told us they'd feed us one by one. They cut our bindings, let us eat and use the bathroom, and then tied us right back up. This became our new, grim routine. I tracked the days by the rising and setting sun. With each passing day, our captors grew more and more impatient. They were clearly waiting for something, and the tension was becoming unbearable. The ransom? Elimination? What was their endgame? I had absolutely no idea. Days bled into one another until the 4th. That's when several of them walked in. One guy, his voice flat, said it was nighty-night time. Panic shot through me like ice. This is it, I thought. The ransom failed. They're cutting their losses, and we're done for. Then they moved toward each of us, syringes glinting in the dim light. They started injecting something into our necks, one by one. People were dropping around me. Just as my own vision started to blur, I heard a muffled boom somewhere outside. A rescue? Hope flickered for a split second, but before I could even process it, the darkness took me completely. What was that sound? Was I saved, or was it the end? My head is pounding. I wake up to the sounds of whimpering and muffled screams. Everything is a blur, and the floor is bouncing beneath me, jostling me around. I try to get my bearings, rubbing my eyes, forcing them to focus. The fog finally clears, and I realize I'm in a place I've never seen before. This isn't a building, and it's definitely not a car. It's some kind of craft, maybe a plane? The walls are metallic and curved. I'm sitting on a bench against the wall, and I see the rest of my group scattered around, strapped into similar seats. A man in a strange military uniform I don't recognize is pacing the aisle. He's gruff, yelling at one of the others, who's yelling right back at him. My heart hammers in my chest. Where are we? And who are these people? I need to figure this out fast. The sound of crying pulled me from my sleep. I opened my eyes, totally disoriented, surrounded by sobbing women. I had no idea what was going on. Suddenly, this guy in a military uniform loomed over me. "Oh, finally, Sleeping Beauty is up," he sneered before turning away. He started yelling, "Well, Vorms, welcome to the Caelum Guard." I couldn't stay quiet. "What guard?" I asked. He whipped around, hitting right in my face, his voice a low growl. "What did you say, worm?" I met his gaze, unafraid, and asked again, "What guard?" He just walked away, frustrated. So I yelled, "Hey, where are we?" He smirked. "On a ship." "Where are we going?" I demanded. He laughed, a chilling sound. "To another ship, on the far side of your moon." Shock rippled through us. The far side of the moon? I turned and saw a window behind me. My heart stopped. He wasn't lying. Earth was shrinking below us. We were in space. My heart started pounding in my chest. A cold wave of panic washed over me. Honestly, I almost wished this was a simple kidnapping for ransom. At least then, there would be a goal, a demand. But here, in this silent, sterile ship, we were just going. We had no idea where. People started screaming, shouting that we'd been taken against our will, but the man piloting the ship didn't even flinch. Eventually, the screaming died down, replaced by a grim acceptance. We weren't going home. What was going to happen to us? Were they going to experiment on us? As we rounded the dark side of the moon, I stared out the window again, and there it was. A colossal structure, a spaceship so massive it blocked out the stars. Just as I was trying to process its sheer scale, our pilot returned and just said, "Hold on, we're coming in." Coming in where? I yelled, my voice lost in the vast, terrifying emptiness of space. He sputtered back, "We are coming in for a landing." I glued my face to the window again. And sure enough, through the darkness, I could see lights. Thousands of them. We were descending into this this massive. I don't even know what to call it. A landing pad, but it was colossal. People were scurrying around like ants. Other strange aircraft were parked, and heavy equipment was moving everywhere. Finally, we touched down with a gentle bump. The engines whined down to silence, and then the cabin lights flickered off, plunging us into near darkness. A cold metallic voice crackled over a speaker, announcing we had 5 hours of life support. Panic seized me again. 5 hours? Were we going to suffocate? The stranger beside me just sighed. "Shut up," he hissed. "We have plenty of air. We're being lowered into the hangar bay." He jabbed a thumb towards the back of the craft. "That door will open soon." His words did absolutely nothing to calm my nerves. Just as he said, a few minutes later, the door slid open and a whole new crew came aboard. They didn't even look at us, just started working on the ship, checking panels and running diagnostics. Then, just as quickly, they left. The stranger who brought us here walked to the door and gestured for us to get off. We stepped out cautiously, and what we saw was just incredible. We were in a massive, cavernous void, bustling with hundreds of people. All kinds of ships and crafts were everywhere, some on the ground with us, others docked on platforms high above. It was both impressive and terrifying. The stranger looked at us and said, "Follow me." I had to ask, "Where are we going?" He paused, then said, "To the new recruit bunk room." I stammered, "New recruit? I didn't join anything." He just smiled. "Yes, you did. Welcome to the Caelum Guard." I looked at my friends, and their faces mirrored my own confusion and dismay. I told him we didn't join anything. We were kidnapped and forced to come here. He just smiled again and told us to follow him. We didn't have much choice, so we did. He led us to our bunk room and told us to get settled in before walking out. That's when the real panic hit. Some of the others started freaking out. Some started crying. I just felt numb. Suddenly, a voice boomed over the loudspeaker. "Captain to all crews, make way. We are heading out of the solar system." In that moment, it hit me. This wasn't a dream. It was a nightmare. I bolted for the door, but as I swung it open, 2 men were standing there. It was the strange guy from before, and a new one, sharply dressed in a military uniform with multicolored ribbons on his coat. I stumbled back in shock. They walked in, and the new guy took off his hat. "Thank you," he said, then introduced himself. "I'm XO Jackson, and you've already met drill instructor Zim. Welcome, recruit, to the most vital military and scientific organization in the known universe. Right now, we're leaving Earth's orbit and setting a course for Deimos Prime, one of our capital planets. There, you'll undergo basic training to join the prestigious ranks of the Caelum Guard. This is an exciting time for you. A chance to follow in the footsteps of other humans from your world who've joined our cause." I couldn't help but interrupt. "Did you kidnap them too?" A gruff voice from the side, Sergeant Zim, quietly remarked, "That's the fiery one I was telling you about." The XO, standing before me, nodded slowly. He stepped closer, staring right into my eyes, and a smirk spread across his face. "I like this one. You've got determination, passion, ... You'll do great in the super soldier program." I just stared back, completely lost. The ... super soldier program? Just then, Sergeant Zim spoke up, telling me not to worry about it for now. One of the other recruits, a woman near the back, asked if all of us were going through this super soldier program. The XO shook his head. "No," he said. "Some of you will become pilots, support staff, scientists, or even command staff. Only special cases like him," he said, gesturing to me, "will go through this specific program." I just stood there, a weird mix of offended and grateful churning in my stomach. Was that a compliment or an insult? The XO paused, scanning the room. "The floor is open for comments and questions." Immediately, a dozen voices erupted at once. He held up a hand for silence. One at a time. He pointed to the woman who had spoken before. "I don't want to be here," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to go home." The XO's expression hardened. "Why did you join if you didn't want to be here?" She broke down completely, tears streaming down her face as she screamed, "I didn't. I was kidnapped." The XO stepped back and asked, "What is this kidnapping?" "We don't understand." That's when it finally clicked. I suddenly realized why the sergeant kept smiling when I said we were kidnapped. He genuinely didn't understand what I was saying. I held up my hand to stop everyone and tried to clarify. "The word kidnapped," I explained, "means we were taken by force, against our will. We were grabbed off the streets where we live and brought here without our permission. We never signed anything saying we wanted to join this place." To prove my point, I showed him my wrists. The dark, angry bruises were still visible. "We were tied up," I said. One by one, everyone else showed their wrists, all marked with the same telltale signs. The sergeant and the XO just stared, completely floored. The XO finally broke the silence, saying they needed to investigate this immediately and bring it straight to the captain. He just looked at us and said, "Stay here," before he and the XO walked out, leaving us all standing there, completely confused and horrified. One of the others finally broke the silence, asking, "So, are we going home?" Nobody had an answer. We just sat there, the quiet pressing down on us. Hours felt like days until the sergeant and XO returned. They apologized, explaining we couldn't turn back to Earth. Our new destination was Deimos Prime. You could physically see the hope drain from everyone. The lady started to cry softly. The XO cut in, offering a sliver of hope. "When we get to Deimos Prime," he said, "anyone who wants to leave can catch a transport back in a month or two. For those who want to stay, ... welcome." He told us to think it over and decide once we landed. Join the Caelum Guard or go home. The ship jumped, and I whipped my head to the window, expecting something. Anything. Other planets, alien ships, the dazzling spectacle you see on TV. But there was just nothing. I felt cheated. Just then, the sergeant walked in, taking in the room. His eyes landed on me. "Son," he said, "you look like your best friend just took your last dollar and your girlfriend. What's wrong?" I just pointed out the window. "There's nothing out there." He smirked, very astute. "We're in between solar systems, jumping through the Milky Way to cut down travel time." I must have looked confused because he explained, "It's easier to calculate a jump between systems, less mass to account for. Within a system, you've got stellar drift, planetary movements. It's a mess. Out here, we just worry about asteroids and rogue objects. A lot simpler, see?" It was starting to make a strange kind of sense.